So, you're probably wondering why I don't actually know where I am. But you see, I was just going about my day minding my business when I fell through a time portal into this purgatorial realm. Apparently that caused the Nexus event, but then I realized, wait, this is a YouTube video intro and this is just the green screen. Which can only mean one thing. Today, we're going to be making a video about the new piece of MCU content, Black Widow. Black Widow. Crying out loud. So Marvel decided it was a great idea to release two pieces of essential viewing in the space of 5 days. One being the hotly anticipated Black Widow movie that's 14 months late, and the other being the Loki show that I haven't stopped going on about for the last few months. That could just be the best show ever. I'm not joking when it comes to Loki. I fully expect it to be the best TV show ever made. Which, for the record, totally lived up to the hype. By far my favorite of the Marvel shows so far. But I'm sorry, someone needs to think about the YouTubers here. I don't want to turn this into a sob story, but I struggled to make a video a week, and now I've got two things I want to make a video on in the same week, and I'm inevitably going to be late to both of them, but no fear. I have a plan. You see, since the Loki episodes have been coming out weekly for the last month, I could just write a brief review of each episode after it comes out and review the show like that. So yeah, Loki episode 1. It's great. I think this is almost the perfect pilot. Starts up right where we left off, pretty much introduces all the characters and practically sets up every single plot device in one way or another. Maybe you could make an argument there's a bit too much exposition, but it gets it out the way and makes for a great Loki episode 2. Yeah, as I said, this is also great. Loads more fun time travel stuff in there. We get to really see what the TVA does in action. I can't really ask for much more. Loki episode 3 was probably the weakest of the lot, to be honest. I mean, I feel like it had to be there to develop Loki and Sylvie's relationship. And hey, Loki got confirmed as bisexual during Pride Month, so that's a win, you know. Other than the fact Disney will never represent the liking men portion of that bisexuality. And just in general, this was a bit of a boring side quest episode. Not like Loki episode 4. I think this is where it really starts to come into its own. The TVA is crumbling. Everything we found out up until this point was a lie, and almost everyone dies in this episode. Kind of. Not really, actually, but I still respect a show that can make it look like they're maybe doing that. And this episode was just twisting and turning. I was well and truly on the edge of my seat, on the edge of my seat. Loki episode 5. So this is also kind of its own side story, but imagine if episode 3 was really, really good and had scenes where a bunch of Lokis met each other, which was honestly all I wanted from this show, knowing it was a time travel show. So big thumbs up from me. And finally, Loki episode 6. Now, going in, I was a bit worried this was going to be a bit like WandaVision, where everyone was expecting it to start up phase 4, open up the multiverse, and it would kind of just not. But no, they fully opened up the multiverse. Introducing He Who Remains, or Kang, I'm just gonna call him He Who Remains, who's expected to be like the next big villain in the MCU and's already been confirmed for Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. He's just such an intriguing villain. He's the perfect balance of is he powerful or isn't he? And turns out, yeah, he's essentially an omniscient being with infinite variants of him, ready to just, I don't know what, but what a villain he's gonna be. And there's gonna be a season 2. I can't wait. And yeah, I guess those would be my thoughts on the show. So yeah, I may have shot myself in the foot a little bit by making these brief reviews, but for that reason, I've come up with a plan B. Just let future Seamus deal with Black Widow, because as you can see, I've still got a lot to say about Loki, which I can't stress enough lived up to my already high expectations for it. In my opinion, this was the real beginning to the MCU's 4th phase, and it was almost a perfect introduction. Right from the start, where they ridicule the importance of Infinity Stones, introducing this new greatest power in the universe. And it's exactly the fresh restart, and please never mention the Infinity Stones again, I beg of you, we need it. Filled up with very on-the-nose setups for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Could branch off into madness, leading to another multiversal war.
Also, as I've already said, tying in with the next Ant-Man and the Wasp movie, and there's a huge connection to WandaVision as Wanda literally witnesses the multiverse opening in the end credits. Yes, that's why, and it just felt like the first real MCU TV show. Yes, obviously WandaVision was made for television. Hey, that rhymed. But it always felt like a limited series. You can't really continue on the story after the whole charade and Westview's done. It's just a completely different show by that point. And Falcon and the Winter Soldier is essentially just the Captain America movie split into 6 parts. Loki, however, was a real show. Like, I don't know, I don't even feel like you have to be an MCU fan to enjoy it. You just kind of have to like your time-traveled fantasy sort of stuff, and you'll probably have a really good time with it. Whereas comparatively, WandaVision, I can't even imagine is comprehensible unless you've seen like at least 6 specific Marvel movies prior to watching it, as it's all about Wanda dealing with her grief and coming to terms with everything that happened in the previous movies. Loki, on the other hand, as good as leaves this world the movies takes place in, introduces this time variance authority and whole society that exists over there. And therefore, even the people who have watched all 23 films are experiencing and learning about this for the first time, bringing someone who hasn't right up to speed. Like, yeah, you're missing a bit on who Loki's character is and stuff, but they fill you in with that in the first episode. I guess Loki hasn't been keeping up with the MCU either. And every other character is brand spanking new, other than Sif, who appears for like 2 minutes. And that's what really sets this show aside to me. It's filled with these new characters and actually dedicates time to them, which makes it more of a series rather than just a biopic for an already established character. I obviously absolutely love Mobius already. Like, you guys know, I don't say this often. Matter of fact, I think this is my first time ever saying this specific statement, but I would move heaven and earth just so we could spend 5 minutes on a jet ski. However, I was slightly disappointed Owen Wilson didn't say wow once. Like, I just wanted one wow. And I think the show really starts coming into its own when it starts delving into and developing the relationships the characters in the TVA have outside of Loki. This scene where Mobius and Ravonna are talking in her office in episode 2 was the first time I was like, oh, this is different. Like, we're actually going to learn about the other characters? I mean, up until that point, Mobius had been the guy. He seemed important. But all of a sudden, he's just a mere employee. He's never even met the Timekeepers. This Ravonna Renslayer character's way more important than him. I mean, even Hunter B-15 seems to be deemed more important. And immediately our suspicions are raised about the truth behind the TVA and Ravonna's involvement, which I think makes for one of the best plot lines in the show, because you're never really sure who's the mastermind behind it all. I thought from the start that the Timekeepers were going to be a red herring, because, I mean, I was never buying it. And then when we actually met them, I was like, yeah, no way are the all-powerful Timekeepers looking like this. And as the show goes on, you're going through your list, who might be in on it, who might not. Mobius and Hunter B-15 both turn against Ravonna and the TVA, but you still don't think she's going to be the mastermind behind it all. Like, I genuinely thought for a few weeks Miss Minutes was going to be the main bad guy in this show, and I mean, I wasn't too far off. She was the only one who knew. And then even for a moment in there, Ravonna has me convinced she actually wants to help Sylvie. And I mean, she does provide her with worthwhile information, but the point is, the characters are complex, and I don't think there's a bad character or a weak link in there. Yet, you're only 1 season in. Don't get cocky. But boy, is this a step up compared to the other shows. And as well, one of my main concerns going in was that we were going to be dealing with a 2012 version of Loki, meaning we're essentially reverting back to an undeveloped version of a character. And I think they dealt with this as well as they possibly could have. At the start, we're definitely dealing with a 2012 Loki, and then he very quickly becomes not that. Now, I'm not going to say it was rushed, because he doesn't flat out become the Loki from Ragnarok. It's a different Loki to that Loki 2, and we don't know how long he was at the TVA, which was kind of the entire point.
Time passes differently here in the TVA.
Past few days, months, I don't even know how long it's been since New York.
But I'm still not sure how to feel about that. Either way, I'm so excited to see where it goes from here. Like, just the existence of a season 2 is such a, this is a real show within the cinematic universe, and I think it erases a load of my initial complaints about this show. Like, when we see the TVA in its full glory in the first episode, I was really excited to explore the mystique and majesty of it and find out everything there was to know about it, but we never really do. We just kind of get some establishing landscape shots in between scenes while the entire season is spent in boring, dimly lit workspaces. But with a season 2, I can keep my hopes up that that still might happen, maybe. Not even to mention how much easier it is to write a season finale when it's not the final season and we know there's more to come. People might not want to admit it, but what we all really want from a show like this is just a load of unanswered questions. It keeps you hungry, wanting more, and then with a final installment, they're so much harder to do because you actually have to answer and resolve and sort out all of these unanswered questions because they don't want it anymore from there, and it ends up being a mess and everyone hates it, except in very special circumstances. But for the end of a season 1, yeah, let's just make Ravonna, who we're not sure is good or bad, but we definitely don't trust, go off and have like a side quest. And you bet I am so invested in what Ravonna's gonna be up to in season 2. Mobius doesn't remember who Loki is? I don't know why, but I want to find out. What's Sylvie gonna do now? What's the fate of He Who Remains? You get the point. The more questions I'm asking, the more intriguing it is. And that's actually something that disappointed me a little about episode 6, because the majority of the episode is just sat down with He Who Remains explaining and answering our questions from throughout the season. And to be clear, I'm not going back on myself here. I still think he's a good character. I can't wait to see him all over the MCU just wreaking havoc. And while I know a lot of people watching the shows with these questions on the tip of their tongues think they want someone to just sit down and explain it all to them, but you don't. The golden rule is show, don't tell for a reason. We want to find these things out and feel like we've earned it so the payoff's more rewarding, and I don't feel like we needed to know everything right now, but also, maybe we did. I can see a logic in them telling us everything here so they don't have to do as much explaining in the likes of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, Spider-Man No Way Home, which I pray has a trailer out by the time this video comes out. Like, I hope this doesn't devalue the show to oh yeah, you need to watch this to get that, rather than this is the greatest thing ever, you need to stop what you're doing and watch it right now. Yes, I really did view it that highly, and that's probably not a massive surprise. Most of you know I'm a sucker to any half-decent time travel story, and say it with me, there weren't any major timeline inconsistencies. Okay, upon reflection, you probably won't have said that with me if you're just watching this video for the first time, but on your second viewing, you'll get that. And I actually think the whole concept of the TVA and this sacred timeline are really consistent and help further explain how time travel works in Avengers Endgame. The fact there are universes stacked on top of each other with potential infinite, almost identical realities completely avoids any and all ramifications from the butterfly effect messing up the timeline, which I think makes a lot of sense. And I mean, I loved the concept of there being an organization in place to stop branching realities and keep the timeline in check, just in general. So I was already sold, but then on top of that, we had these little nuggets, like Sylvie hiding in apocalypses, because when everyone's about to die, what you do doesn't really matter. That's like actual innovative and clever storytelling in a time travel show. You love to see it. And I also thought the concept of a bad memory prism was really fun and creative too. And if I can just go back to my roots and put my little theory hat on, I think this multiversal war that they keep referring to as something that happened a long time ago is actually going to be in the future, and the big thing the MCU is building to this phase. The TVA doesn't seem to exist at any point in time, so rather than the multiverse opening here being the start of the second multiversal war, I think it's just the multiversal war, and it was inevitable. I don't know how that goes or what happens after that. That's what the movies and TV shows are for. And also, I could be wrong, I have been before, but with that said, there are a few issues I had that kind of just got glossed over. Like at the end of episode 2, Sylvie unleashes a load of reset charges, quite literally bombing the sacred timeline, only to be completely forgotten and ignored in the following episode. Like apparently it was supposed to be a distraction, but she dropped literal reset charges. How are you supposed to repair that? I also don't really understand how Loki and Sylvie managed to create a branch timeline right before they died on Lamentis, which according to Mobius's theory was caused by them falling in love, but I don't get how that creates a branch timeline. Like, yeah, they're the same being, that's kind of messed up, but surely then them just coexisting creates the exact same problem, and no, that's not creating branch timelines. Like, I know it's just a theory, it may not be true, maybe some future archaeologist discovers their fossils and their DNA matches and it creates a huge issue in that future society and that creates a branch timeline in the future, or He Who Remains had a part to play and personally manipulated and it's supposed to be an unanswered question that's going to be resolved in a future season. I just don't think that's really gonna be the case. All in all though, these are really minor issues when it comes to a time travel story. You know, as long as they stick to the rules that they set in the universe, I'm happy. And I think this was almost flawless, which is all I've got to say about the time travel aspect of this story. And I guess that makes me future Seamus, because Black Widow, it's back on the board, and after a long time of thinking, I finally came up with Plan C. I can accept I'm never going to be quick enough at making videos to be on time, so I'm going to have to get views in a more unconventional way, by making my already established audience watch my videos over and over again. So you can watch my Black Widow video, it's on screen right now, you can just click on it. And then that video is going to tell you to come watch this video at the end, and then after this video you watch for a second time, you're going to have to go watch that video again, and so on forever. And I'm sorry, but I'm also kind of a genius, so thanks for watching, make sure to like and subscribe.